Gentleman, Mr. Harrell is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great to see you, and great to see many other familiar faces on both sides of the dais. My name is Jeremy Harrell, and I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of ClearPath, and thank you for the opportunity to testify today. America's energy demands are rapidly increasing. By some estimates, the U.S. will need to double the capacity of the grid by 2050 to meet expected energy demand. Unfortunately, building energy infrastructure at that pace is procedurally impossible in today's regulatory environment. Never has the phrase, time is money, been more appropriate. The combination of permitting delays and ping-pong decisions from administrations past and present make projects exceedingly expensive. Fortunately, fixing this outdated system is at the top of the congressional agenda. This committee has rightly put permitting reform front and center, passing with bipartisan support the Lower Energy Costs Act as H.R. 1. The bill addresses many bottlenecks that make the current system a quagmire: unnecessary duplication, a morass of reviews across multiple agencies, and superfluous legal action. Solving these challenges will create jobs, boost energy security, and reduce global emissions, all while providing safety and environmental protection for all our communities. Project developers are ready to build today. The important thing is for policymakers to keep an eye on the prize. The next step in the process cannot be to water down H.R. 1 into something milquetoast that fails to change our broken system. As bipartisan efforts continue in both the House and Senate, I'd like to highlight 3 pillars of reform that must be expanded upon to unlock our energy future. 1, restore predictability to the system. 2, provide more streamlined litigation. And 3, improve coordination between federal, state, and local governments. To restore predictability, we must flip the permitting paradigm from a system that favors stopping a project to one that expedites the approval of projects that bring net benefits. The status quo is overwhelmingly tilted towards those who seek to delay or block projects. That may have made sense 4 decades ago, but today it's actually resulting in increased emissions and environmental degradation. We need a system that promotes good outcomes, both economic and environmental. That means projects that do not have an environmental impact should be granted immediate approval. This approach, similar to permit by rule concepts some states have implemented, allow pre-qualified technologies proven to have minimal environmental impacts and immense positive outcomes to move forward without delay. Additionally, designating a list of pre-qualified geographic areas, such as brownfields, is also reasonable. The environmental impacts of new development in these locations is minimal, and in many cases, they are near the communities that need the redevelopment the most. That'd be a win-win for the environment and the economy. And if you take those no-brainer projects out of the way, you have more time and resources to focus on more complicated projects. Critically, federal action can no longer vacillate according to political whims, particularly when the Congress has acted. Developers must be able to rely on decisions from one administration to the next. We've seen this pointedly, particularly in mining, like the Resolution Copper Mine in Arizona or the Twin Metals project in Minnesota. This administration's tortured approach increases U.S. reliance on minerals sourced from overseas, including from countries that lack basic environmental and human rights protections. Our system should create jobs here, promote American innovation, and foster better global environmental outcomes. Second, once a project is approved, any further adjudication should move quickly. Litigation under NEPA has become the favored tools of those who seek to indefinitely delay projects. Such prominent examples include the Cape Wind project off the coast of Massachusetts and the Atlantic Coast Pipeline connecting the Utica and Marcellus gas fields to Appalachia, where excessive legal challenges to federal and state permits force developers to cut their losses. Recent history has shown clean energy projects are not immune to these delay tactics. Any changes to judicial review must balance a plaintiff's right to be heard with the goal of reaching finality on a more predictable timeline. This could be accomplished by immediately elevating any legal challenge under NEPA to federal appellate courts. Ultimately, legal disputes must be resolved in less than a year. And finally, it's important to embrace federalism where appropriate and return more permitting authority to the people who know the communities the best. One recent example is Class 6 wells for carbon capture projects. While many states have long held enforcement authority for other well classes, only North Dakota and Wyoming have been granted primacy by the EPA for permanent CO2 storage. To gain primacy, a state must prove their standards are as rigorous as the federal standards. Whereas the EPA has taken 6 years to permit a Class 6 well, it took North Dakota only 5 months to do so after receiving primacy. These federal delays are particularly egregious given that the Department of Energy is investing billions of dollars to deploy new carbon capture technologies that we need. These types of measures would improve efficiency with no different environmental outcome, so why wouldn't we shift the authority to the people closest to the geology? In conclusion, the challenges are numerous, but Republican and Democratic policymakers have never been more closely aligned on the need for permitting reform. Whether the motivation is climate, economic growth, or energy security, it is well past time to fix what is broken. ClearPath looks forward to working with this committee to push reform across the finish line. Thank you.